of course everyone's an idiot. Of course you're going to, you know, you're going to sweat, you're going to be hungry, you're like, I need to use the loo. Like everyone has these moments which makes them very human, unsexy. While when someone says you're sexy or attractive or desirable, it is a compliment and I enjoy it. But I do have more to offer.
You had also told me that you just don't see yourself date an actor because the vanity of it is just. Sobhita, welcome back to Film Companion.
Thank you.
I just love that I meet you at different milestones of your career, and while so much changes, so much remains the same.
Yeah.
And I really love that. You know, I saw that literally this month you were voted #1 on IMDB's list of most popular Indian celebrities.
I was shocked.
That too voted by fans. Listen, it's pretty incredible. How did you process this?
When I saw that, I didn't understand. I was like, कुछ mistake है क्या इसमें? Because it's surprising. It felt really nice, and I think I was happy to show it to my parents.
So sweet. So sweet. But in an earlier chat, you had also told me that one of your most favorite things to do in life is to just walk on random streets and people gaze.
Yeah.
I'm curious to know, does being most popular, can it come in the way of being able to do this now?
I think there are many Indias within our India. There is an India where I could be a loved actor, character, whatever, and there is an India where I have complete anonymity.
Yeah?
So I think so. There is an India that celebrates that large-scale cinema where an actor is God, and there is an India where people want that closeness, that intimacy, that authenticity in performance, and an actor who wears their heart on their sleeve. And they're not the same India. They're different Indias. So I guess there are other Indias that I can go to within this India where I can be completely having anonymity.
So you still find the streets?
The streets find me. Yeah, always. That remains. It's a nice anchor point.
It's amazing. You know, when part 1 of The Night Manager released, it opened to some really staggering, or Max reported 9.6 million views in the first week, which is amazing. Tangibly, what did it change for you?
Outside of tangibility, I think it gave me confidence that I was making choices that were reflecting what people also wanted to watch. That was a discovery for me, that okay, the projects that I'm picking are connecting.
Yeah.
Tangible results wise, I felt like my character over the span of the 2 parts has a nice arc that I enjoyed playing. But in the first part, it wasn't extensive at all. And yet, there was enough interest around it for people to want to know more. So it made me understand that people will tune in if a lot of things are done right. So I think knowing that, I mean, a project is more than one character, right? So I to be honest, I was quite surprised by the volume of people that I watched the first part. I was quite curious because it is in the first part that a lot of plot points are introduced, but they really play out in the second part. So I was relatively more confident about the second part. So I was curious, how will they, read this? There's not too much. So it was really like, I felt good. You come back from wanting to cheer for, promote the second part with ease and not just that.
Yeah. You also talked about how it really wasn't a challenge to straddle these two incredibly good-looking men. I completely get that. But honestly, what was the challenge getting into the psyche of Kaveri Dixit?
I think when dialogues, the scripts, screenplay, when that's really good, that has a lot to do with the merit of the writers and the filmmaker who's envisioning the story that way. But what is not on paper is the silent shots.
Which you had quite a few of.
That is where you see what the actor brings. So for me, making my silences communicate has always been a special thing, something that I enjoy, something that I work on. I deeply respect the craft of acting, and somewhere I hope that no matter how, uh, you know, glamorous or however people see a actress in a show, especially like this, which is a lot of style and all of that, it became, I did my best to make sure that people lean in a little closer to know what she has to say.
Or what she's thinking.
Yeah, so I think building that has been my area of work.
Yeah.
What's on paper is on paper, it's given to me.
Yeah. But you know, after part one, your director Sandeep wrote you this really lovely note in which he said, "Thank you for adding the dhak dhak to Kaveri." Do you know what he meant, and how does one
It
add
sounded
this?
nice. I don't, I mean, I think he meant some, I don't know, maybe like, I mean, it felt like a compliment, but I
I'm
can't
sure it
break it
was.
down. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but you,
Oomph or something of such, yeah.
yeah, and I know it's possibly a good problem to have, but does being so effortlessly sexy ever get limiting as an actor? Like, do you ever have to just be the goofball that you also are to just balance it out?
I think when one sees me or doesn't interact too much with me or only consumes me in, I guess, media channels or on social media, wherever, I I am of the understanding that people think I'm maybe reserved or cold or this sexy and all of that. But there's so much to a person beyond that. Of course, everyone's an idiot. Of course, you're going to, you're going to sweat, you're going to be hungry, you're like, I need to use the loo. Like everyone has these moments which makes them very human, unsexy, but can still be endearing, like all those things. But I guess when people consume an actor through their characters, that ends up creating an impression.
Yeah.
They tend to think that this is how that person must be. Like when Made in Heaven came out, people, I was very young at the time, and I played a character that was older than my this thing. But people assume that, okay, maybe I'm like this, this boss bitch kind of thing. But I was not that. So somewhere I think I've grown to accept that because that the more number of people are going to consume my characters than me as an individual, and this impression is a byproduct of those choices or those characters, and you got to roll with the punches. Being only sex, while when someone says you're sexy or attractive or desirable, it is a compliment and I enjoy it. But I do have more to offer, and hopefully I'll find opportunity to showcase that as well. The start of my career, the initial few projects, even a Kala Kandi or a Muton or a Raman Raghav, I had the chance to do parts or even a small part in Chef.
Yeah.
Not sexy or glamorous, but I really enjoyed it. I didn't garner as much visibility through those projects. They might not have been like commercially more visible than say the recent ones. Kurup, I was not sexy or whatever, but
You were pretty sexy.
You think so? Shit. No, but if that's, I think desirability is different from sexy, because cute can be desirable. There's so many ways an actor can be desirable. Vulnerability can be desirable. So I hope desirability is something I'm able to retain, but in a broader spectrum,
Sure.
beyond sensuality.
Yeah. No, that's beautiful. And I remember you telling me in our chat when Made in Heaven had just broken out that you thought that your mom was pretending like she hasn't watched Made in Heaven because she wanted to avoid the conversation around intimate scenes. How has part one of The Night Manager gone down with the family?
They are growing up with me. Yeah, I mean, my parents, while they come from a simplistic background, academically driven, so they're not exposed to cinema beyond the conventional, obvious mainstream films. And I'm also discovering, I'm also growing, and they're growing with me, and they're like, oh, so many types of films exist. And like in the lockdown, they've seen so much cinema and they've grown to, I think, they've arrived at a bit of a neutral where they're able to see it as a character, which I think is really amazing because, I mean, they're my parents, you know, family knows you in a very, very raw form, which is devoid of these like whistles and all of that. Uh, I think they're doing a great job of being like, huh, they'll say some completely different scene. That was nice. Yeah, but I think it's pretty cool of them to just embrace and grow.
Yeah. And also during major, like I said, I speak to you at so many different landmarks. You said that over the past few years, you really have had the opportunity to ask yourself so many questions as a human being and really listen to yourself.
Yes.
What has that thrown for you? What have been the discoveries?
My idea of, it's like when I started out, I was very conscious of the fact that I came from a modeling background and how one would perceive an actor who comes from such a background. I was Miss India and I was modeling for a year while also auditioning for ads and stuff. So there tends to be prejudice against someone, you know, because they're like, oh, she can't act, maybe she's just, you know, look nice
pretty
and that's
face.
about it. So I think I made conscious choices to belong with parts that gave me scope for performance. Obviously, if an amazing commercial film that had grand scale and I get to dance and do, you know, a bunch of cool things, I would have absolutely loved to do it. But I mean, because I have no background in the film world, I was learning with each choice that I was making, and I was like, okay, I want to make sure that I give people the confidence that I can deliver a performance. I give that confidence to a filmmaker, to a producer, and with time, I want to be seen as an asset. I want a producer to think that she can garner enough like likability from the audiences to be interested in watching her content. So producer can be confident in putting his money on me by casting me. A director, the confidence that if I need her to bring something of her own, if I need her to do a authentic performance, I can find a way to bring that out of her. This sort of confidence, giving that to a director, a filmmaker, or even a cinematographer, is something that was high up on my priority list in the beginning. That was the only way I could make it, and that's that. You learn with each step you take. I mean, some work, some don't work, but I feel like there's a certain out of an actress's career, one expects a kind of a curve. I want to be like a tangent. I don't want to feel caught up in sensationalism or being like overnight stardom. I think it would make me much more, give me a sense of fulfillment to have a long career with a variety of roles, and I want to grow as an individual so that I can give more to my characters. If my cup keeps getting emptied, I need to find ways to fill it. And you can only fill it when you experience life outside of the sphere of celebrityhood, acting, cinema. Outside of this, as a human being, only when you have experiences do you grow, and you can bring that growth into your characters. Because if you don't see much beyond this, I don't know how you can represent the ordinary person on the street.
So, Jadu Pocha Bartan is still part of the game?
That will always be on. Like, I love it. It's so relaxing to clean.
No, but how do you protect this vulnerability then? Like you said, street walking, people gazing, like how do you really just protect that as the walls around you just get higher?
Practically speaking, I don't spend too much time on my phone.
Okay.
In the recent past. It's a very deliberate, cutthroat way of disciplining myself. I feel like if I were to spend more time on the phone, we end up going to social media. I'm not against it at all. It's a great medium. But I feel like I have to be economical with the amount of time I spend on it. Otherwise, I get consumed. I think it's easy to get caught up in that web without realizing that the reality on the street is very different from the same person who posts something completely, or even on YouTube, opinion pieces or comments. Because I feel like, say, I'm someone who manufactures a product and people have criticism for the product, or someone has opinions of the product. While I may get protective of it, "Nahin, I made it well," there's still room to fix it, improve it without feeling attacked. But I am my product. I'm an actor. I am the product that I'm offering. So when criticism comes for any actor, it's very personal. You cannot separate that. You feel rejected. So I think it's important to be aware
Yeah.
that this is not intentional. This is a product of what we do. So I think it's important to spend time also being alone. It's important to know what grounds you. That could be anything, that could be cooking, that could be whatever, and spend time doing it, because it's so tempting to read or to find out what people think about us. And the more we spend time doing that, the more we want to curate how people see us. I don't want to invest time in fixing how people perceive me, because I think after a point I lose my sense of, am I projecting this or am I this? Am I a cute person or am I showing that because people like it? What does it mean to be cute? You know, I've seen that happen with people.
It's a
and
slippery slope.
Yeah, I think so. So I think it's important to be cut off from people's perception of you and spend time outside of the digital sphere.
Yeah. You had also told me that you just don't see yourself date an actor because the vanity of it is just too much for you to take. A few years in, after working with some incredible men, are you willing to reevaluate your criteria?
Yeah, I think my judgments have come down a little bit. I don't think being judgmental is necessarily a bad thing.
Okay.
I feel like it's only when we judge can we assess. Like in this room, only when I judge will I know, hey, I can be friends with this person, there's common ground. I don't think we have a vibe.
Vibe.
That is a judgment. So
Sure.
depending on like how much judgment we use, if we are constantly judgmental just for the sake of analyzing, and that's not right. But I think being judgmental in measure is very natural, I think. But having said that, I think I may have had a certain amount of conditioning which I'm over the years pulling down. Like in the beginning, I remember I used to think, it was a way of justifying it to myself. Okay, I used to think, I don't know if I'll ever belong in commercial films, because I don't know. There's more scope for performance in art house cinema. This is what I want to do. I continue to love art house cinema, but I realize now the absolute brilliance that is needed to make a film successful and get people to step out of the comfort of their home, come to a theater, watch your film, pay their money, and celebrate you. So I recognize the merit that goes into that. So that's one judgment down. I'd love to do commercial films, and as an actor, I think one should do everything. This is not something I actively thought about before. I had a little judgment, maybe. So, like that, I think in a lot of areas of life, my conditioning is being questioned, and I'm willing to be a little more neutral. On some days it's easy, on some days I struggle, but I think I want to be neutral and not judge. I'll try.
Yeah. Yeah, like you said, these are the questions that you ask yourself along
Yeah.
the way. And I know you were also talking about just PS2 and the celebration that it was. In the same year, you've had a PS2, a Night Manager, possibly even a Hollywood debut, and maybe Made in Heaven too. I mean, wow. I really just want to ask you, what did one have to sacrifice to see a plate like this?
It's so interesting that when I try to think of the sacrifices I would have made, all I remember is, it's like sometimes when I look back upon moments in my life which were really intense, it looks like a movie scene to me. It's like a montage cut. You know, I don't remember too deeply the lows, but I don't cherish too much the highs. Over time, I think everything meant more in the beginning when I was starting out. Every high made me jump like a monkey. Every low, I would just sit and cry. But now I think my idea of accomplishment is a little wider. I want to be able to have a full life in. I want to be a good actor. And I want to be a responsible person of the film industry who understands trade and who's able to work on on bringing that security to my filmmaker or producer. These things I didn't know before.
Yeah.
I'm learning on the job. I want to be able to spend time with my family and cherish what it means to be a daughter. I don't know how long I'll be a daughter. I don't know how long my parents will be around. My sister got married this year and she's moved to Delhi, and I get less time with her now. So I think to be conscious and available to the other developments in my life, personal, family, social, artistic, outside of my career, those areas I'm spending more time. And automatically, I think the highs and lows of this, they feel like the high and low currents that will keep happening, and to not get too attached to one thing. That's something that's happening with me. I'm just more balanced.
That's so beautiful. Like I said, the milestones just keep growing, and I will keep meeting you for to
In the documentary of my life.
I shall feature along the way. It's always just really such a joy to listen to you. Thank you. Thank you so much for
Thank
talking
you.
to me. Thank
Thank you. Hi, this is Sobhita, and for more of my interviews, subscribe to Film Companion.